Shalom, shalom again, brethren. This is part 3 of the lesson study, Yahuah's new moon. When is it, and why is it important? Before I go into the lesson study, I just want to share a few observations. Notice that the scriptures show us that it is the sun, moon, and stars all working together that Yahuah has provided for us to use to measure time. No man can move the luminaries, nor can anyone change their charge. This is evident when we read Genesis chapter 1 verse 14 to verse 18, Jeremiah chapter 31 verse 33 to 35. Again, Job chapter 38 verse 31 to verse 33. Ecclesiasticus chapter 43 verse 1 to verse 10. And that's just to name a few. Notice that the luminaries are never worshipped by the righteous, but rather they are used for their purposes which Yahuah has charged them with to this very hour, and that is to do service unto man. Also notice that the world starts its year in the dead darkness of winter, January 1st, 12 midnight. Whereas Yahuah, the Father of lights, starts his year in what we know today as spring, but in scripture it is called Abib, when the scriptural agricultural cycle begins. Notice how the world's calendars hang on a wall or on someone's hand, be it a man-made device. None of the righteous people in scripture had such devices. No cell phone, no tablet, no computer, no wristwatch. They didn't even have the Roman Julian Gregorian calendar. But what they did have was the sun, the moon, and the stars. Notice how the world starts its day at midnight and or sunset. Notice how the world's calendar system is fully immersed in the world's economic holiday systems. Notice how the world does not acknowledge Yahuah and his appointed times. Notice on the world's calendars that New Moon Day is not day 1 of every month. Notice how the world calendar system has work days and weekends. There's so much more that I can pull to your attention or call to your attention. But I believe we can see and understand from what I shared that the world opposes Yahuah's calendar system. Now to the lesson study. Concerning the new moon, I want us to notice that I have not said that the first sliver is new moon, but rather the scriptures states that the moon becomes new when it starts to receive light. It states this clearly. that the moon becomes new when it starts to receive light. This occurs during the day, but we cannot see it with our eyes. But we see the end result in the evening as the light of the moon becomes visible. This whole day is what the scripture states is new moon day. Now here is where I want to place a few words of caution. The Babylonians celebrated first sliver, crescent, as new moon. But this is not scriptural. When we read Jeremiah chapter 10, verse 1 to verse 3, it reads, Hear ye the word which Yahuah speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus saith Yahuah, Learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. For the customs of the people are vain. So we clearly see and understand that we are not to follow the ways of the heathen. The scripture says, As it is written, that thou mightest be justified in thy sayings. Bear in mind that the moon does not align with the commonly used Gregorian calendar. The Gregorian calendar uses a fixed man-made date line, but in scripture we see that the days are always counted from the new moon, which can be seen anywhere in the world first. Now, I'm going to share some examples of the very fact that the days in scripture are always counted from the new moon. Let us begin with Leviticus chapter 23. Here we find a list of events which are known as the appointed times of Yahuah, and each of these events occur over different days, and each of those days are counted from the new moon. In Leviticus chapter 23, verse 4 to verse 6, it reads, These are the feasts of Yahuah, even holy convocations, which ye shall proclaim in their seasons. In the 14th day of the first month at even is Yahuwah's Passover, and on the 15th day of the same month is the feast of unleavened bread unto Yahuah. 7 days ye must eat unleavened bread. Now I may jump down to verse 10 and verse 11. It says, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When ye be come into the land which I give unto you, and shall reap the harvest thereof, then ye shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest unto the priest, and he shall wave the sheaf before Yahuah, to be accepted for you on the morrow after the Shabbat. The priest shall wave it. Scripture shows us that the day after Passover was the Shabbat, and the day after the Shabbat was the first day of the week. The day of Passover, the 14th day after the first new moon, and the 6th day of the week. This is the day the people prepared for Shabbat. We can read this in Mark chapter 15, verse 37 to verse 42. Luke chapter 23, verse 53 to 54. John 18, verse 39 to verse 40. And John 19, verse 30 to 31 and verse 42. The day after the seventh day Shabbat is the first day of the week. This is the 16th day after the new moon. Mark 16, 1 to verse 2. Matthew chapter 28, verse 1. Luke chapter 24, verse 13 to verse 21. Notice how Luke chapter 24, verse 13 to verse 21 aligns with all of the other scriptures listed above. So now we ought to see so far from the lesson study that the world is united in observing the feast of Yahuah on one 24-hour solar revolution. And that is the Shabbats, the new moons, and the feast days. All of the countries of the world will experience the arrival of Yahuah's Shabbats, new moon days, and feast days within one 24-hour solar revolution. Brethren, there is only one seventh day Shabbat 4 times per month to be kept by the whole world. And as such, the whole world is to keep Yahuah's feast on a specified day and not over several days. Hence, this is why it is important for us to understand New Moon Day. It is truly of paramount importance. Like I always say, brethren, I am no scholar. I am always open to corrections. You may contact me via YouTube, email, or WhatsApp. If there's something that needs to be corrected, if there's something that I need to learn, I am open for both. I am no teacher. However, I am a Natsarim. A Natsarim is a follower of Christ. The early Roman Church Father Jerome said that the Natsarim, the followers of Christ, they held to the law, that is the Torah, they held to the writings, that is the prophets, and they held to the Brit Hadashah, that is the renewed covenant, and that they were very well versed in Scripture. And because the Romans' intention was to merge Mithraism with the way that the Israelites worshipped Yahuah, the Natsarim, or the Israelites, refused to agree upon such a merge. And as a result of this, Jerome literally called them heretics. Well, If I'm called a heretic as a result of following Yahushua like the Nazarene did, then so be it. I have one rabbi, one master, one teacher. Shalom, brethren.